Hey everyone, RogueGold here, and today I want to have a bit of a discussion about PvP in the Division 2. This is nothing new, but I'm sure that a lot of you are aware that there are a lot of pessimistic views towards PvP in this day and age for the Division 2, and a lot of that is not unwarranted. As I've covered on here many times before, the Division 2 has not had its own dedicated PvP team in several years. I believe it was back in 2019 when Red Storm was moved off of the project to go start working on Heartland. They were previously the ones who handled PvP in the Division 1 and 2, at least primarily. And so the lack of their involvement has meant that really no new PvP content has been added over the years. Massive has done their best to do some balancing efforts here and there, stuff that they feel comfortable tackling, but without PvP experience and knowledge at their studio, they're not really going out and making these huge sweeping changes that maybe we would want if we did have that dedicated team. However, with those limitations in mind, I feel like the recent discussion surrounding PvP has been almost too negative to the point where it's ignoring some of the known plans that we know are in the works for PvP. There are some things coming up that I personally think is going to make the PvP experience a lot better, some things that at least have the potential to really enhance the enjoyment of PvP. And so I want to cover all of that today, both covering some of the old stuff that we've talked about. There's some updates there, as well as some more recent additions that some of you all should be pretty excited about if you regularly play PvP. So let's just get right into it. All right, so I hopped on over to the known issues board here because there are quite a few things that I want to cover as far as PvP is concerned over here. And the first thing is actually, I'd planned to make this video before this was added, but just today, a new PvP item has popped up under the investigating tab here, and it says PvP status effects from various weapons require a revision. And as you can see, that popped up just 7 hours ago. There is currently no description or timeline given for when these changes might be implemented. At this point, I'm going to assume it will be after the launch of Season 2, as that's coming up in just a few weeks. It's likely going in for review pretty soon. But taking all recent context into consideration here, I think this is very likely referring to the St. Elmo's and its shock, properties in the DZ that has gotten pretty toxic with, the classic mix between AI usage and actual player usage that just gets really messy. And so I assume they're going to do something there, but it does say various weapons, and I'm curious to find out what those other ones are going to be. The Scorpio comes to mind, although I really don't know if the Scorpio is all that problematic because you do have to land those several subsequent shots to really get some of those bonuses going, but they could be talking about that. Either way, in my opinion, status effects have been one of the biggest issues in PvP for quite a while, so anything they want to do to kind of bring those more in line is appreciated in my view. So I'm really curious to see what their kind of plans are here and what these various weapons are they're referring to, and I think that's going to be a good change overall. Next up, I covered these in a video not too long ago, but there have been some changes that I want to go over for these two right here. It says Bleed Hive rebalancing and Riot Foam skill rebalancing. The first one, this is all the same as it was before. They're going to be making some changes to the Stinger Hive in PvP. However, we did now get the confirmation right here with this label that it is going to be planned for TU19, which is the launch of Season 2, coming in just a few weeks. Again, like I stated in that other video, I think the Stinger Hive is relatively well balanced compared to some other skills in PvP as far as how it scales with skill tiers, but it is still much higher, much more commonly used, I should say, compared to a lot of the other skills in PvP. So if they want to bring it down and promote some other skill usages, I don't have any issue with that, so I'll be curious to see what their plans are there. And then for this one, in that other video, if you watched that, this originally said they were going to be looking at reworking the Riot Grenade in PvP, which myself and a lot of other people thought was odd because the grenade really isn't that bad, right? It's powerful, sure, but you have to land the grenade, and that's a hard thing to do. So if you actually manage to land that, you deserve to lock someone in place and get some of that damage. However, the Riot Foam Chem Launcher skill has always been problematic because of how easy it is to root someone in place and you don't have to invest into that at all. So again, we don't know what the changes are going to be to that. I'm hoping that they implement some sort of system where at lower skill tiers it only slows the receivers down instead of actually rooting them in place. And then if you want to get up to tier 4, 5, 6, that's when you can start stunning them for periods of time. But I think at lower skill tiers is really where this thing needs some attention. Similarly to the Stinger Hive, though, this has also been updated for TU19, again, launch of Season 2 in just a few weeks. So we have some really great PvP changes coming in just a few weeks now, and hopefully these, this one and the Bleed Hive both, make a positive impact on the PvP meta, and I think they will. All right, so like I said, those are just some of the plans that are announced on the known issues board and stuff that we can now look forward to, hopefully in the coming weeks, like I said, with Season 2 and the coming updates with that new one under the investigating tab. However, there's another more long-term goal that I wanted to remind people about that I think should be pretty hopeful if you're a PvP player. And that was that in my interview that I did with Morten Ryberg, who is the product director on the Division 2, you can find the full link for that in the description if you want to check it out. But when I asked him about PvP plans in Year 5, he gave a pretty interesting comment. So let me quote this. He said, "I have this hope that the changes coming with Season 4 has quite an impact on PvP. If that turns out to be true, time will tell." Okay, so that is very interesting. Now, I want to stress, and he says it right there, that's not definitive. He's not saying for sure stuff we're doing in Season 4 is going to change PvP dramatically, but he says there's kind of a chance to. And I think that all hinges on how exactly this endgame revamp works out, how the new item type they've teased integrates into the current build making structure. So we're not going to have further details on that for a while, but I just think it's indicative that even though, like we said previously, Massive does not have the same kind of capabilities or resources that Redstorm did to really transform and modify the PvP experience in the game, they're using the tools and knowledge that they have to do their best to make the current experience as best it can be. It doesn't mean that every single thing they try out is going to work, but it does mean that they're putting in effort, and I appreciate that. And so I'm very curious to find out what he means by Season 4 has the potential to change up PvP. Again, I think it hinges on some of those new additions they're making. How exactly that is going to impact PvP, what sorts of stuff would actually touch it compared to, I assume, like the Seasons 2.0 thing wouldn't really involve PvP all that much, but you never know. I'm really interested to find out what he means by that quote. But even if the Season 4 stuff doesn't turn out to be all that influential onto PvP, I think it's clear that, like I said, over time they're doing their best to still modify the PvP experience with the resources and knowledge that they have, even though they don't have a lot of PvP specific people on their team, if any. That was always Redstorm's role, and unfortunately, they're just not on the project anymore. But there you go, folks. I hope you all enjoyed. I wanted to provide an update on PvP as it's something I am very passionate about, and I know a lot of you are as well. So I hope that some of these reminders and the coverage of these upcoming changes gives you a bit more hope for the future of PvP in the game. Like I said, it's not going to be as exciting as us getting new conflict maps, a new Dark Zone. Obviously, we would all love that. But in the meantime, Massive is doing their best to balance and modify some of these outliers that we know have been in the game for a long time. And so I'm very interested to see how it goes over, and I'm super curious to hear all of your guys' thoughts. What do you think of each of these changes? What weapons do you think are going to be included in that status effect revision node that is now on the known issues board? What kind of things do you think they're going to do to the Stinger Hive and the Riot Foam skill? And what do you think Season 4 could potentially be introducing that would have an impact on PvP, as Morten suggests? Whatever you're thinking, leave it down below. I'd be very curious to read through it. That is going to do it for me today, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay safe. I'll see you in the next one. RogueGold. Out.